Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld Podcast, your weekly source for all the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. And this week, we are back to talk about the latest updates from the Mandalorian and Grogu, including a cover story in Empire magazine with new quotes from Pedro Pascal and Dave Filoni, as well as a couple of new images, one that I think is actually from the movie and some that are done special for the magazine. We've also got some toy news. We got toy news about Maul Shadow Lord. We're going to have a look at some of what's coming up on the Black Series front, and we'll be answering some of your questions, comments, theories, whatnot in another iconic electric edition of Ask the SWU. First, though, introductions are in order in case you're new to the show or you've forgotten who we are. That can happen. My name is Dominic Jones, and with me, as always, he's the founder of the Star Wars Underworld. It's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? It's good to be back. And yeah, we got a magazine, guys. Remember magazines? Remember those things? You pick it up, got pages, you flip through it. Got a magazine, and it's got Star Wars stuff in it. So naturally, we have to talk about it. Yeah, so that's a lot of that's kind of the sign, the intergalactic sign that the marketing is fully in swing. That we have an Empire magazine with a Mandalorian and a Grogu on it. So yeah, it's very exciting.
I thought the magazine industry was dead because Star Wars Insider is ending in one more issue. And if there is no Star Wars Insider, what is the point of having magazines? I don't understand.
I'm telling you. Yeah, that final issue is coming up soon, and I'm not okay with that, even though I never actually bought Insider, and I'm contributed to it being dead. We're going to ignore that.
This is your fault, Ben. The fact that Insider is ending is your fault for not buying it more. How dare you?
I was reading StarWars.com, and they were just like, yes, Star Wars Insider is ending after 20 years of service, and it's directly dependent and is the fault of Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy. He's to blame for all this. Send your hate mail.
Everyone head down to Mississippi and beat the crap out of this guy. That's why we're not getting any more.
Okay, that's a little extreme. It's a little extreme. I can take your hate comments. I don't want your physical violence.
I do love like a physical magazine though. Like it is one of those things. It's almost become like a relic of like days gone by, which is kind of sad. But I do I love a physical one. And when Force Awakens was coming out, I went through a phase where I was like, I'm going to collect every single magazine that has Star Wars in it. And Force Awakens was truly everywhere. And I was not prepared for how many magazines that was going to be. And so somewhere in a box, I have a whole bunch of just the randomest magazine. I remember buying some fashion magazine. It was I can't even remember what it was called, but I remember that Daisy Ridley was on the cover and there was an extensive interview with her. That was actually a really good interview. But the magazine was I guess it was 200 pages. It was a big magazine. And I swear the first 70 of them were just ads, just ad after ad after ad after ad before you got to any proper original content. And then this really quite. I remember at the time thinking it was a good interview with Daisy Ridley in, I don't know, Beauty Life or something, like some kind of magazine like that.
That sounds like a real magazine. Yeah, sure. Go with that.
Yeah. I just remember like bringing it to the cashier at like Walmart or something, being like, "Hello, yes, I would like to buy Beauty Life with Daisy Ridley on the cover." I'll have to find that. I should dig that up. I should dig that. It's probably in a box.
I have a big box. I have a big box of them too somewhere.
Yeah. So I did get like several of the Vanity Fair covers that were for Force Awakens and Last Jedi, because
Vanity Fairs are classics.
Multiples. Yeah, and they would do like multiples. I remember getting, I think with Last Jedi, I wound up with all of them. All of them.
Wow.
So, yeah, which is a bit much because the inside of the magazine is the same, and you can look at the pictures online. So I'm suddenly realizing why magazines are going out of business. But we'll talk about Empire magazine. We'll talk about what's going on with the Mandalorian and Grogu. We'll talk about toys. We'll talk about many other things. But first, want to remind you of a couple of things. As always, make sure you are subscribed to the Star Wars Underworld. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you like to get your shows. Subscribe to never miss an episode. If you're listening live and you want to go the extra mile, you can super chat with us. It's a way of financially supporting what we do here, and also guarantees that your question will be included in Ask the SWU. And if you're not listening live, you can become a channel member on YouTube. Again, it's kind of like just like a tip jar. There's nothing, we don't give you anything. We're not one of those cool channels that does stuff. We don't have like bonus episodes. We did that once.
We're also honest.
Remember KanjaCast? We used to do that. Maybe if enough people sign up, we'll bring that back.
That was a thing.
Yeah.
No, don't promise. Don't make a promise you can't keep.
I've still got the intro buried away.
We know how this goes.
If you're listening on a platform, make sure you a platform that allows you to leave a review. Please leave us a review, preferably a 5-star one, but we'll take a 4-star one if that's all you think we're worth. Join the Discord to keep the conversation going between shows, and make sure you're following us on social media. We're at the SWU. You can check out the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network. That's Ion Cannon, The Raeside, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, and The Tractor Beam. And if you want to read about Star Wars instead of just listening and watching about it, check out Hot Off the Press. That's DominicGJones.substack.com. Got a review of the first issue of the new Darth Maul comic is up there. If you would like to, if you're feeling like wading into the world of Maul Shadowlord, well, we've got Shadow of Maul #1 reviewed up on Hoth Off the Press. Again, that's DominicGJones.substack.com. All right, let us get into things. We will start with what we talked about already, which is magazines. Magazines are back. That was the point of that conversation we had off the hop. Magazines are back, and specifically Empire magazine. They've got a cover featuring the Mandalorian and Grogu, promoting The Mandalorian and Grogu, the new Star Wars movie that is hitting theaters in just about 2 months now? 2.5 months? 2.5. I'm gonna say 2.5. Well, Ben's got a countdown.
Excuse me. That is exactly 78 days away, or 2 months, 16 days, 3 hours, 46 minutes, and 2 seconds.
So 2.5 months is what we're getting at. 2.5 months is where we're at. There's 2 covers. One features Din and Grogu together. Grogu's got one of those director's chairs that says his name on it. And the other one just features Grogu in the chair holding up the slate. The slate number is 113. The take number is 8. They spell out 1138.
Oh,
nice little Star Wars reference.
Oh, you did that thing.
Now, this is the subscriber exclusive one. The one with the slate is the subscriber exclusive cover. And the main one with just the Mandalorian and Grogu is what you will find in stores if your store sells magazines. They also dropped a new still from the film. It is Din Djarin riding a chicken walker on the snow planet. Ben, what do you think?
I mean, it's cool to finally get an official look at this. What I'm assuming is it's got the Imperial cog on it, so I'm assuming it's an Imperial ATRT. which it's basically, people are comparing it. It's basically the same thing that we saw in the Clone Wars and the Red Bridges. It's cool. It's just like they just brought this back, and it's cool, even though they have chicken walkers with roofs. Especially like it seems like they would want a chicken walker with walls and a roof on a snow planet, but nah, it's not, maybe not as quite as cool or dynamic as this version. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see this, and a lot of people are kind of like, it looks kind of weird. Like this is clearly like one of those stills that like it's maybe not from the movie. It's kind of like one of those like they posed him to do that and whatever else. So it's like it's not indicative of that, but still very cool. And we've seen, if you've seen some of the, I don't know if actually any of that footage is in the officially released public trailers, but I know the celebration trailers, it's all over that. So very cool to see it finally.
It was also in the D23 teaser. Like,
oh,
we go
yeah.
way back. So it's one of those ones, and there seems to have been a lot of this with this movie, where they're reusing this stuff that they teased like a year or more ago. And they're like, okay, well, now we're gonna like we teased it to this small audience who projected it out to a larger audience at D23 or Star Wars Celebration. But now we're gonna tease it to everybody here with 2 months and 16 days until the movie coming out. So it's an interesting little picture. It's a cool-ish design. It's nothing new necessarily, but it doesn't look bad either. But it's another one of those things with the Mandalorian and Grogu where it's like, could we see something new, like either that we haven't seen in one of the other trailers, or that's a completely fresh design. That was what was so welcome about the trailer a couple of weeks ago, right? And like, imagine if this had come out without that trailer. It wouldn't have been the same reaction as the Super Bowl spot, but I don't think people would have. I think people looked at this week and went, okay, cool, next. Whereas I think if that trailer hadn't come out and actually shown us some new things, there would have been more of a reaction along the lines of, what are they doing? What's going on here? It just goes to show how important that trailer was. We also have the story that's been posted to the EmpireOnline.com website about the movie's return to theaters. Couple of tidbits from this. Dave Filoni, the new president and chief creative officer at Lucasfilm, not co-CEO, which is what the article says.
I was wondering, I saw that, I was like, do they know something we don't?
This is where I miss Anthony Bresnikan doing Star Wars coverage, because that wouldn't have flown. That wouldn't have flown.
I really do like. I've listened to their podcast. I like the guys over at Empire. They're very good at what they do. But I think they may be inferring a little too much here. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and also, like, are there no editors? Are there no fact checkers? Like, I know this is basically
this is a semantics. Hey, to quote Kymir, semantics. What's the difference between a president and a CEO? I don't know,
but I just think you should get it right.
We're Star Wars fans, okay? Actually, we want things to be right, including Dave Filoni's official title. They got the co in there. I appreciated that. I appreciated they just didn't call him president because he is a co.
It's a co. Yeah, I don't know. It's not. You're right. It's not really relevant to the story, and I'm not trying to call out the Empire.
When has that ever stopped us? When has relevancy ever stopped us from complaining about dumb things?
I don't know. I think you should get it right, even in what is essentially a glorified press release. Again, no disrespect to Empire. They're doing what they're meant to do, and they're doing it well. I don't know.
Also, another note I should mention is that the fact that like they drip feed this stuff out over like a week or more. So if you're listening to this in the future and like, they're not talking about this thing, like, they haven't released it yet. It's Thursday night. They just released a couple of articles, and we'll probably get more in 24 hours time.
That's why we're able to dwell on co-CEO versus co-president, because
Yeah, exactly.
there's not that much else to the story. I know. Okay, so Filoni, he co-wrote the movie and also served as second unit director on it, which is
Pulling double
great.
duty.
I love, that's very humble of him. He's the
Right.
co-president, chief creative officer, and he's like, yeah, I'll still be second.
He's a man of many hats.
There we go. They did ask, Empire did ask him about how this return to theaters. It's been 7 years, about 7 years since Rise of Skywalker, differs from Episode 7, which was a return after about 10 years since Revenge of the Sith. This is what Filoni says, quote, Episode 7 was a completely different entity. I had dreams of Episode 7 since I came out of Return of the Jedi. You were like, after 6 comes 7. Where's 7? We're in a completely different era of Star Wars now. The Mandalorian and Grogu doesn't carry the burden of introducing a new trilogy or establishing a group of unknown heroes. Instead, it is, Filoni says, a big celebration of its title pair. So I think there's a little bit of expectation setting here,
Right.
of like, this isn't Episode 7. This isn't the grand continuation of the movies previously, but it is still important because he still calls it a new era of Star Wars. I don't know. What did you make of this Filoni quote?
Yeah, no, I think, this is definitely all table setting. This is, setting expectations, and rightfully so, stating the obvious here that, like, The Force Awakens was so huge for so many reasons. And on top of just like, what Filoni's talking about, just being like, oh yeah, we all dreamed of what Episode 7 would look like, and none of us believed it would actually happen. And then lo and behold, it happens. And like the expectations and the thing, and and the fact that it did, most of it did pay off. I still love The Force Awakens. I think it delivered on what it promised, and I think that's a success story of just like Star Wars, just like bringing Star Wars back, bringing it to a new audience, bringing it to the old audience, and doing it forward. But the Mandalorian Grogu is so different. Doesn't have the stakes on it. I don't think it's up to the challenge either. I don't think it's trying to be that. I think it's a movie that is bringing back some characters, taking them from one medium, putting them to another medium, and just bringing it. But also, yes, some time has passed. We haven't had Star Wars in theater in a while. People's memories are short. It feels weird to say it's been 7 years since 2019, but it has. And it also feels like 100 years since then, too. So time is weird. But, like, it does kind of weirdly, that connection stays there, which is like this connection of it's bringing Star Wars back. Star Wars is back. It's bringing it back to the general audience who, let's face it, there's a certain amount of we've always talked about a certain amount of people that only watch the live action stuff. They're not going to watch anything animated. There's also a certain amount of people that will only watch the movies and probably don't care about what's going on TV. So for a lot of people, and any kids born after 2019, this will be their first Star Wars in a theater, or any Star Wars at all. So that's a tall order unto itself. I think the stakes are there, but they're not as high.
Do you think the movie's gonna make any effort to like recap what's come in the first 3 seasons? I don't mean like a previously on
The Mandalorian.
Yeah. I don't mean previously on, and I don't mean a scene where like Din Djarin sits down and is like, let me tell you about all these wacky adventures we've been on. But like, do you think there's going to be like an effort in the movie to maybe weave in just a little bit of backstory just for folks that like you're describing, who only watch the movies, maybe haven't watched The Mandalorian? I mean, nobody's watched new episodes of The Mandalorian since 2022 or 2023, but like it's been a while. But there might be some folks that haven't watched since season 1, since season 2. How much of that do you think they'll make any effort to sort of try and catch people up to speed, or is it just like we're dropping you in the middle and you'll either pick it up or you won't?
I think a little bit of both. I think there will be subjects. I think the reset, which Favreau and Filoni, I think, have talked about at length, of just like, yeah, it's kind of like we're kind of resetting things back to the way they were in season 1. So it's not like you have all this baggage. I don't think we're going to have a lot of returning characters. You know, I think we might get a Carpsativa, we might get a Pelimoto. I think that's about it. I think it will be all new characters, all new plot, all new story, and an all new adventure. And you know, whatever people may be confused by, will be there. It'll be there. I think, you know, the same can be said about tons of franchises. I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a thing that's been going on for so long, but for the most part, if you're just along for the ride, you can jump in on any of those movies and kind of get the subtext and kind of things, and the characters will banter amongst themselves and give you kind of some subtext of like what's going on. You keep going. Star Wars is the same way. I don't think it'll be a problem. I would not put it past them to do some kind of recap thing. Maybe let's see. I don't know, because I was wondering like this. I'm like, okay, how's the movie going to end? How's the movie? How's the credits going to go? Because every Star Wars movie has ended with like it's always done that. So I'm expecting that. But how's the movie going to begin? I'm expecting a Mandalorian style, like just cold open, maybe. Maybe they'll do a crawl. Maybe they'll do what the Clone Wars did, what Ahsoka did, what kind of Solo did, which is kind of do their own version of the crawl and do like it's not the crawl, but it's text on a screen, and so you can read something and just do that, and just kind of it catches you up or whatever else. They could do something like that. I don't know. If they're gonna do that, I say just do a crawl, just do a crawl.
Yeah, I hope they're doing a crawl, and I hope this is one place where Jon Favreau goes full nostalgia. Like, you know, John does the nostalgia, presses the nostalgia button a lot. I'd like to see him go, yeah, no, I'd like to do a Star Wars crawl. I'd like to go.
I understand.
Time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then text just scrolling up the screen.
I understand that The Mandalorian is a different vibe from the Star Wars films. It is a different style in the music and the editing, everything. But I don't think it's that hard of a left turn or that jarring of a thing to just be like, let's take some classic Star Wars elements like the crawl and just put them in there. I don't think it would be bad to be and just like the Mandalorian and Grogu and just like, episode number and just go into it, have a text crawl. And then you pan down and you do the rest of the movie as you would with the normal, or do, maybe do a little bit different take on it. I don't know, but I don't think, I also refer back to what Kathleen Kennedy said. I know she's not with the company anymore, technically as president,
she's
but
still working on this movie. She's still working on this movie.
Yeah, she is. And she promised a few months ago. She was like, yeah, we're bringing back the crawl. We're going to do the crawl again for the movies. And I'm like, okay, Kathy, you got me interested.
Not to beat a dead horse, but this is one of the things that I will never not talk about. But getting rid of the crawl and not doing crawls for Rogue One and Solo is still one of the most baffling decisions they've ever made. It makes zero sense, but that's a conversation for another day. But like, you do the crawl in this movie, like we'll remain laser focused on this. You do the crawl, everybody's excited. Yes, Star Wars is back. Isn't that exciting? Pan down, opening action sequence on the snow planet. And that gives you another moment, another like big epic moment that you can do of Din Djarin's entry or exit of the first scene. And you hit people with just the purest version of the Mandalorian theme. Like the most like badass guy walking in, walking out of a scene, just double. You get the double applause moment. You get the applause moment with the crawl, and you get the applause moment with the Mando theme a few minutes later.
Yeah. Or John, Dave, I know you're listening. I know you're listening out there. And if you need some ideas about this, I got an idea for you. This goes way back to the beginning, almost the beginning of Star Wars. This idea, basically, say you want to do the crawl, but you want to do something a little bit different. Do what they were originally going to do for The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back was going to open with a view of the frozen tundra of Hoth. And the crawl was going to be over that. Ooh. And it was going to be like with Hoth in the background. Do that, open it on the snow planet and have the text going over the snow planet. How cool would that be?
That'd be pretty cool. I'm totally, yeah, that'd be great. Just do a crawl. The point is, do the crawl. If there isn't the crawl,
one way or another,
you better have something.
Text
better
on
have
the
something
screen.
good.
Text scrolling up. It's not that hard.
And if you're not doing the crawl, you better have something else good, and not just a different version of the crawl, like in Solo or in Ahsoka season 1, episode 1. Just do the crawl. Yeah. On the question, just go back to a second ago, the question of how much like recapping will they do? I remember going into season 3. Remember, like, one of the big conversations we had was how much recapping are they going to do? Yeah. And like, because still another strange decision, but hey, we roll with it. We roll with all strange decisions made in Star Wars. Was that a huge plot point for The Mandalorian took place in the Book of Boba Fett. So in the future, aka now, when someone's like, hey, that Mandalorian and Grogu movie is coming out, I would like to get caught up on this Mandalorian show. They will go from season 2, episode 8, in which Din Djarin hands Grogu to Luke Skywalker, and Luke Skywalker walks away, and it's a big emotional moment. Din's got his helmet off. It's like everybody's heart is simultaneously full and breaking at the same time. And then season 3 opens with a crazy action scene with Din in his new Naboo N1 starfighter, and he lands, and Grogu just pops up and goes, as if nothing had ever happened, because that whole story took place in the Book of Boba Fett. And so going into season 3, we were like, they're going to need to do the biggest previously on you've ever seen. There's going to have to be so much. They're going to have to get caught people up. They're going to have to deal with it in the first few scenes. Maybe they'll even replay a scene or two from the Book of Boba Fett, like all this stuff. And instead, they just dropped you into the story and said, if you know, you know, and if you don't know, it's up to you to find out. And I could see them doing a little bit of that here too, of just like, if you remember seasons 1, 2, and 3, great. You've got a leg up on everybody else. If you don't, well, this is a new story. So if you want to know the backstory, when you get home tonight, go back and start watching the show. But for right now, just focus, keep your mind on the here and now where it belongs. And don't dwell on the past too much. Don't worry about the backstory. It's the now story that we're worried about.
Right.
And Pedro Pascal said something to that effect in this interview with Empire. They asked him about, season 3 ended on a kind of a final note, right? Did they defeat Moff Gideon? He's been the main villain, the big bad, through 3 seasons. And Din and Grogu, they've got this little home on Navarro, and they're just chilling there. And Ira Stout and everything. And so they asked Pedro about that and what it's like coming back after that kind of ending. And Pedro says it only felt like an ending, or it only felt like the ending of a particular chapter. And so I think that's how they're viewing this. Yes, it's a continuation, but like you said, probably we're not going to see a ton of characters that we've seen before. Zeb, Carson Teva, the Hutts from Book of Boba Fett sort of count, but sadly, we're not going to have Grief Karga because Carl Weathers passed away. We're not continuing the story of Moff Gideon. We think that character seems to be finally done. Highly unlikely to see someone like Cara Dune show up for other reasons. It does seem like you're going to have Din, you're going to have Grogu, you're going to have the New Republic. But really, all you need to know going into this movie is Din's a bounty hunter. Grogu's kind of a Jedi in training kind of sort of guy. And they work for the New Republic hunting down Imperial threats. Everything else, what's past is prologue. We don't have to worry about the rest of it too much. It's we're starting from a pretty, not a clean slate, but a cleaner slate than we did for season 2 or 3.
Yeah, and we also cannot forget that this is what Star Wars does. This is what Star Wars has always done. It has done it from the very beginning. A New Hope, Star Wars started in the middle. It's famous for telling stories. George Lucas is famous for telling stories out of order. So, like, you watch A New Hope, you understand that, yes, this is the first movie, but also there's stuff happening. There's stuff already happening. We're in the middle of this, and we're just going to go with it. And either you pay attention and you get all the nuggets of information that you can, or you're just lost. There's not holding your hand. And I think this will be more of that thing. I think it'll be more along the lines of, people will either be on board with it and will have seen everything, or will be like, oh, hey, this is a new thing. There's stuff happening. I'm just going to watch it and enjoy it and not worry about anything that I might have missed because it's on Disney Plus already. You can go watch it.
It's funny, right? Because that is an essential part of the Star Wars DNA is just dropping you into the story. You don't, when those ships go over top, you have a little bit of a sense of why, but there's not a whole lot beyond what's in the crawl. And yet now, because Star Wars is a massive franchise with so many stories that have been told in it, I think people forget that the stories need to be accessible for the most part to people who don't really know the backstory. That's why you need a crawl. The crawl gives you everything you need to know to enjoy this chapter. You'll get more from it, sure, if you know all the other chapters, but the crawl gives you, this is what you need for this story. Now go. And I know people get overwhelmed. They feel like, I don't know where to start. They feel like, oh, I can't watch this Star Wars if I haven't watched all Star Wars. This movie should just be something that anybody can go and see. You sit down, you enjoy the action, you enjoy the story, and you roll with it. And when they try to do things to hold your hand, to explain this and that, honestly, that's when I think they make it feel more complicated than it is. Like if there was an extensive previously on, or there was a scene where Din sat down and explained all of the stories, and maybe there were flashbacks or something, that's where you start to have people going, oh my god, I gotta know all of this stuff, I gotta remember it. When instead it should just be, here's the story, let's begin, take it away. And you don't need to include in superfluous things like a weird flashback, like a previously on, or starting with a title card that says 9ABY or something like that. You can just drop us into the story and we'll figure it out.
I think that's actually essential. A lot of people will be confused. People will walk out of the theater going, you know what, the movie was great, but I didn't know what hell the year was that it was set in. They could have put a 9ABY at the beginning and it would have cleared up everything. But no, they ruined it. Favreau ruined it. He didn't put the date in the front.
How many years after the Battle of Yavin was it? And while we're at it, what the hell was the Battle of Yavin? That's what most people say.
Hey, at least the people in this timeline will know what the Battle of Yavin is.
I mean, the characters well. The characters well. This is true. Yeah. You know what? And the way Favreau writes, sometimes it honestly wouldn't surprise me if somebody said, you know what? It was 9 years ago that the Battle of Yavin took place.
Yeah, we unanimously, the Senate decided that we're going to measure all time from now on based on the Battle of Yavin for some unknown reason. Oh my god. There's that book, The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. It's allegedly an in-universe text written by Beaumont Kim. That's the premise of it. Even though it's actually written by Chris Kempshall, who's a very good writer. But in it, there is a whole series of paragraphs justifying the use of ABY and BBY. And I was reading it and I'm like, I feel personally attacked by this. This is, I feel like this was written specifically to say, shut up, Dom. Anyways, let's keep going. Let's keep going. We don't need to dwell on that anymore. Any other thoughts, Ben, on this Mandalorian Grogu cover story from Empire, or do you think we've more or less covered it? No, I think we've probably done it justice. Just very excited. I mean, genuinely speaking, I'm not throwing shade at magazines. Like, this is genuinely some of my favorite parts of like the marketing and stuff like that, and getting the things, the little tidbits in the interviews and poring over them, seeing like, what did Favreau say? What's he trying to say here, and what's it mean? And it's very fun. So I'm looking forward to waking up tomorrow and seeing what else Empire has in store for us. What other image are they gonna have? Are they gonna? I don't know. It's crazy.
I do hope that there's like a slow roll of this, like several, like there's like 2 or 3 or 4 more stories like this, and each one has a still image with it that we can pour over and dissect and try and make sense of. So yeah, good stuff. Thank you, Empire Magazine. Thank you to the magazine industry for carrying on and continuing to deliver Star Wars updates to us. Let's see, what else have we got? Let's touch on Maul Shadow Lord. Maul Shadow Lord. That's actually the next thing up. That's coming up in literally about a month's time. We will be watching the premiere of Maul Shadow Lord, and so Hasbro has revealed some of the Black Series figures from the series that we can look forward to. We've got the Maul figure, looking like Maul, how he always does. Yeah. We've got Devin Zara. That is the Twi'lek Jedi character. We've got Rook Cast, the Mandalorian warrior, the Muldalorian warrior, I guess we should say. And the 11th brother. That is the creepy bird mask looking Inquisitor guy. Yeah. What do you think of these figures, Ben?
Oh no, I love all of them. I know. I'm not in the business of collecting Black Series figures again, but every time Hasbro's like, you want come back, come get these, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm gonna think about it. I love the Devin figure. Especially since like this is the first time we've only seen her in like very dark circumstances. So like seeing her character, seeing her outfit, just like not about the figure, just like the character design. I love her color palette. Like all the blue pants, the aqua shirt, a two-tone shirt, the pink boots, like, and coupled with like her like reddish pinkish hue of her skin color is such a striking image that I just love the character design. I think that's a really interesting thing. And I know there's a lot been said about her character, where she goes. I don't know, the idea that she's a Jedi that maybe hooks up with Maul and starts to dabble in the dark side. That's going to be very interesting. I think just her character design alone is got me hooked.
Yeah, I am also intrigued by this character. I love the Rook Cast figure.
Oh, yeah.
That's a cool design.
You can rarely go wrong with a Mandalorian, but come on, that design, because the helmet's pretty good. That kind of souped up Mandalorian. That's I'm getting the Night Owl, and I think it's the Night Owl, the more of the female things. Yeah, it's just it's so good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. These figures are all available for pre-order, though they won't ship until July. The other thing I just wanted to mention is, like, I don't know if you guys touched on this in a week that I wasn't here, but the Mandalorian and Grogu first wave of Black Series figures might be the most boring wave of Black Series figures I've ever seen, especially for like a movie release. I like, because it's like it's Din and Grogu, like a 2-pack, which that makes sense. Right. They are the main characters of this movie, sure. And then it's like 3 stormtroopers and Sigourney Weaver, and I was like, I don't want any of these figures. I mean, maybe the Sigourney Weaver figure, but
we did talk about the fact that the Sigourney Weaver Colonel Ward is basically just like every other Rebel pilot costume with Sigourney Weaver's head on it. With so yeah, not the most original figure.
Yeah, but it was like, what is here to be excited about? And they did that whole launch with Favreau about how like important the toys are to all of it. And it's like, okay, so you've done the main characters. That makes sense. You got the main 2, sure. But that's just a repack of figures that have been on the shelf for years, so nothing new there. 2 like stormtrooper variants, which I guess is exciting if you collect the troopers. And like I was genuinely looking at that going, I guess this is the first Star Wars movie I'm not getting any figures for on the first wave. And then I saw the Sigourney Weaver one, and it was like, okay, at least the head sculpt is like something new and original to this movie.
I mean, couldn't they have got an Embo design out of mothballs and repackage that? Like, give us an Embo, give us a new Embo figure.
Yeah, but I bring up the Mandalorian and Grogu stuff just to like point out that this with Maul Shadow Lord is how you do it. You know, you get
pretty good.
I mean, Maul is one of those figures that like, yeah, you can never really go wrong with. Rook Cast, like you said, Mandalorian is hard to go wrong with. That Inquisitor looks really, really good, and as you said, the Devon Azara figure is pretty solid as well. Like that's a good wave. I could easily see myself picking up any of those figures. Whereas the Mando Grogu one, it was like maybe one, and even then, it's like maybe we wait for wave 2 and see if Embo or somebody else is in there. Do you think they'll do a Rod of the Hutt? Do you think that's the
maybe a HasLab in 10 years? I don't know.
I was gonna say that feels like that's got HasLab written all over it. I'm surprised that's not up now. Like, shouldn't okay, maybe not now, but like a month before the movie, or like 2 weeks before the movie, and then 2 weeks after the movie, do the HasLab push to get a Rada figure done. That's the time to do it, because people are excited about the movie. The people that already know going in are excited, and the people that don't know will be excited afterwards. And you're presuming that he's a cool character. They wouldn't get Jeremy Allen White to voice him if he wasn't. And so that people will want it. And maybe, you do like a big, scary Black Series Rada the Hutt figure.
I mean, it's funny you say that, because like the day the Mandalorian and Grogu figures dropped, a fan created I don't think they did this on purpose. I think this was completely accidental, but they created a fan-made Rada the Hutt adult Mando Grogu figure, the Black Series scale. I don't know if this was photoshopped or it was a real figure that they made, but they posted it online, and everyone just got it. The wires got crossed, and everyone was like, "Yes, we're getting a Rada figure! Hell yeah!" And I had to be the bearer of bad news. I'm like, guys, I think this is fake. I think this is fake.
There's a lot of
fake. Yes, there should be a Rada figure. Come on, we know he's in the movie.
There's a lot of fake Rhoda imagery going around, right? There was a couple of them that came out yesterday that were apparently AI generated. So daily PSA: don't trust everything you read or see on the internet. What all that says to me is that Lucasfilm should just release an official image, because people are excited. And with those images, like yesterday, they look legitimate to me, and people were like, kind of pouring over them, looking at them, saying like, "Are these real or are they not?" I'm like, well, Empire Magazine is doing the little thing. Maybe sometimes stuff leaks. Sometimes we'll get like photos a little bit early. So it didn't raise any alarm bells to me that like we might get a kind of a first official look at Rhoda then. But and Hal Hickel from ILM was like, "No, fake." All it says seriously, it says to me that they just need to release an official image of this character. I don't see how that spoils the movie. I don't see how that takes away from the movie. Ideally, you want to put out a cool image of a cool character that then makes people go, "Where can I see more of this?" And then they go and see it in the movie. I don't see how saying this is what Rada looks like now spoils anything in the movie, especially considering we get all those quick glimpses of him in the trailer. We see a couple of quick moments. I just put it on. Hell, if you can't find a magazine partner, just put it on StarWars.com.
Here's something of all the. This is a hot take for me. This is something that only me is worried about. Or maybe all of you will be worried about it after I mention this. But like, everyone is concerned about Dave Filoni becoming co-CEO of Lucasfilm now. and like for various reasons. My one concern, my annoyance about that is the fact that I've always been annoyed with Lucasfilm's obsession with secrecy and making things that do not have to be secret anyway, just because they're obsessed with everything has to be a secret, even stuff that's not a spoiler. Filoni is someone that is very much one of the driving forces behind that. He is definitely someone who is, everything has to be a secret, blah, 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 blah. And that's one thing that concerns me by going forward and be like, we're going to get more of this. I really, I loved everything going on with, Starfighter and, those guys. And we were getting, Sean Levy was posting, pictures from the set. And I'm just like, this is good. This is how normal, film productions operate. Sometimes you get set photos and stuff like that. You get people talking about it. And it's not ruining the movie. It's just there. It just happens. Versus Filoni, I think, is very much in the camp of just no, you get nothing forever. And then you might get something and everything is held back. And I hope that's not indicative of just the direction of Lucasfilm overall under Filoni's leadership, because I think they need to loosen up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we can have this stuff.
They're stuck in an old school mindset that is based out of people's recollections from their childhood. It's another nostalgia play of, well, I didn't know anything about Empire Strikes Back before I saw it. I just went in and had my mind blown. I'd seen Star Wars once, and then we played with the toys for 3 years, and then guess what? I saw a poster, maybe I saw something in the store, and then I went in and saw the movie without having seen a trailer, without having seen TV spots, without having seen clips. And that was how things were, yes. And many, many, many people have very fond memories of that, and I don't wish to take that away from anybody, but that's not how you sell a movie now. You need people excited about it. You need people talking about it. And not every little thing is a spoiler. And, they kind of got into that a little bit with Force Awakens, where they really played up again the nostalgic angle of this is, we're trying to do things the way they, it's just like you finished watching Return of the Jedi on VHS, and now you're gonna pop in the next one. And they really tried to play that up, and a lot of people went along with it, and there were some people that really tried to go full spoiler blackout on episode 7. But what was funny about that was, I think that one, episode 7, might have been the most marketed of all of the movies. There was tons and tons of stuff out there. There were still images, there were clips, there were pictures, there was that teaser trailer over a year early and stuff. There was a lot out there, and it kept people engaged, kept people excited, and it built the momentum, it built the hype. Whereas now they just sort of go these long dry spells. And I'm not saying you need something every week. I'm not saying they need to give away the whole movie, but just something cool in the background, a cool image of Rada the Hutt, just something that keeps people interested and engaged. And they say, oh, we want it to be we were playing with the toys and you didn't know what was going on. Well, what were you doing with the toys most of the time, right? You were envisioning what was going to happen in the next movie. And people people generally don't play with toys in the same way that they did in 1980, especially if they've grown up since then. And so you can't, I mean, physically grown up. I don't think any of us have emotionally grown up. I'm still stuck in 2007. But you show the teaser, you show the images, that's playing with the toys now instead of literally playing with the toys. And you look at that image of Rada, a new image of Rada, and you go, wow, I wonder what's going on here. You look at this image of Din on a chicken walker and you go, wow, think of all the things he could do with that. I can't wait to see it. And it makes you excited. Yeah. I don't understand this show me nothing thing.
And I look, I want to be respectful, and I understand that spoiler culture and like scooper culture has gotten out of hand in places. I don't condone a lot of the things that like happen behind the scenes and people, breaking confidentiality agreements and spilling the beans on certain things and ruining reveals for things. I think a filmmaker is well within their right to feel like, I want people to experience this when they watch it. I don't want to reveal this ahead of time. And I think, on the opposite end, there's an argument of just like trailers give too much away sometimes that, I would have liked to have seen, I don't know, it wasn't the best movie, but like people, point out that, it would have been great if we saw Harrison Ford transform into the Red Hulk in the movie instead of in the trailer for Captain America: Brave New World.
Right.
And I understand that they gotta market it, but also would have been cool, and it's just this back and forth. But like with spoilers, I think a lot of this stuff gains traction online, and a lot of the spoilers and the scoops and stuff like that, people having their little leaks and stuff like that, gains traction. But when there isn't anything happening, I think the perfect way to squash stuff like that is to not come out and deny it, but to release something and go, oh, here's this official thing. Here's a picture. And I think with Star Wars, the power of that is like, it can be literally just a photo. It can be just a photo of Grogu on a green screen, and people will lose their minds for at least 48 to 50 hours. Like, it will be front page news. They don't need much to keep us happy.
We're always chasing the next shiny thing. You can dangle some keys in front of us, and we'll be right there for it. But yeah, you see it happen all the time. There'll be something negative, and then they drop a new thing, and oh my god. And I'm just saying, we don't need the negative thing. You can just drop the new thing and have people be excited. You don't have to wait for other things. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. I guess we'll see what Dave does going forward. Let's answer some questions. In our Ask the SWU segment. Actually, first, quickly, we'll shout out Skeleton Crew and Young Jedi Adventures for winning some Children's and Family Emmy Awards. Skeleton Crew won Outstanding Young Teen Series, Outstanding Visual Effects, Outstanding Editing for The Real Good Guys, that's the season finale, and Outstanding Sound Mixing and Sound Editing for You Have a Lot to Learn About Pirates. And Young Jedi Adventures also won Outstanding Sound Mixing and Sound Editing, I guess for animated stuff for the episode The Battle of Tanu. So congratulations are in order to the crews of both Skeleton Crew and Young Jedi Adventures.
Two great shows that are highly deserving.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into some Ask the SWU questions. These have been submitted over the last few months in the Discord, and I do mean a few months because this one was posted early in the day on New Year's Eve by Gilster 10, and we're just getting to it now on March the 5th. It says, with beings like the Mortis gods and the Bendu out there, where's the line on how powerful a single entity can get in the galaxy? Doctor Who runs into a similar problem with the Pantheon of Discord, a group of reality-bending beings like the Toymaker or Sutek, who can grow so powerful that they're nearly impossible to defeat. Does Star Wars have a similar ceiling, or is there such a thing as becoming too powerful within its universe? So we're talking about these kind of beings like you mentioned, like the Mortis gods, like the Bendu, who are all powerful. Seemingly all powerful. I mean, both of them. I mean, the Mortis gods get defeated. Bendu, not so much. Bendu kind of wins the day on his own. But is there? Right. Do you run the risk when you're dealing with the supernatural? Do you run the risk of making things too powerful? What do you think?
I mean, Star Wars has the advantage of leaning more into fantasy more often than not, and more often than some other franchises. But then, in Star Trek, which is a franchise that I am catching up on, that I'm not up to speed on. the lore, and I haven't seen most of the series. But like Star Trek is more like, feels like more hard-edged sci-fi. It obviously is set in their own universe and whatever else, but also deals with a lot of really wacky stuff, really wacky fantasy concepts, and just like the whole idea of Q and like all the basically gods basically that they're dealing with. Very, very powerful figures, people that basically created their universe. There's a lot of that stuff in Star Trek that I think, like I said, I don't know what people's opinions on that are, but I think it fits with Star Trek because Star Trek is just weird. It's a good kind of weird. Star Wars doesn't have as much, and I think it's just, if it's done well, I think it works. I think the Mortis gods are something that, it is the dream world. It is the world between worlds kind of vibe of it. Just like, you watch the Mortis arc, you're like, well, did that happen? Was it a real thing? And then you watch Ahsoka and you're like, well, there's a statue there, but did it really happen? Is this all things like, even the characters are unsure about like what that was that they experienced. And I think, it's a little to a lesser extent with like Bendu. I think he's obviously very powerful. Like he turns into a cloud and he defeats the Empire himself with lightning bolts. That's pretty powerful, but also it doesn't feel out of the realm of possibilities for Star Wars, I think, and that's actually fits right in line with like themes of nature versus, technology and all that kind of stuff. I think it falls right in line with that. I think if it's done right. I think, if it comes down to being like, oh, here's the biggest, baddest guy in the galaxy and no one could defeat him and he just can't be, and you can't touch him with a lightsaber, blah, blah, blah. Like that's boring. Obviously, characters need flaws. They need, context. They need nuance. But, even the Mortis guys, as you said, were killed and defeated in their reality. So, like, it's all in how you do it. And I think, power is relative.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing about Star Wars. Star Wars is fantasy dressed up like sci-fi. And so we're thinking about this question in the context of when they lean more into traditional fantasy with the Mortis gods, with the Bendu. Gilster brings up like the pantheon of the gods in Doctor Who, which again is kind of just another show that is fantasy dressed up like sci-fi. And when you go to those more literal traditional fantasy elements, that's when we start to go, whoa, does that seems like we're going too far. Whereas when it's dressed up more like sci-fi, you kind of go, oh, well, maybe, that's possible. Because remember, in the first movie, the villains blow up a planet. That is some like fantasy stuff that's like way outside the realm of what you usually get in science fiction. But because they've sort of dressed it up as it's technology, it's the Death Star, that we believe it. But that's such like an extreme thing that you almost go like, well, how do you go bigger than that? Like what's more fantastical than literally destroying a planet? And the times when they've tried to one up themselves, or when J.J. Abrams has tried to one up themselves with that stuff, that's when it starts to feel a little bit goofy, and you realize like, oh yeah, it is kind of goofy just blowing up a planet. Like they do an okay job with Starkiller Base in Force Awakens, like not of like repeating the Death Star, but not making it seem too outlandish. But then you get to Rise of Skywalker and you have an entire fleet of Star Destroyers equipped with Death Star guns. Like that doesn't get talked about nearly enough.
A wee bit on the nose, don't you think?
People talk about Rian Johnson breaking the Star Wars universe, which he didn't, with like the Holdo maneuver. J.J. Abrams just said, hey, anybody can have a Death Star. And put that into the movie.
You get a super laser. You get a super laser. You get a super laser.
So like you do that stuff, and like Rise of Skywalker, that's a movie that goes into like that, where you sort of lean into like, oh, are we getting characters that are too powerful, like the Emperor shooting just massive lightning up into the sky and taking out all the ships. And so we have, like, I do think we have walked up to the line and maybe put a toe over it, but it has less to do with, Dave Filoni's wacky world of animation and more to do with someone like Abrams and I'm not trying to pick on Abrams here, but like someone like Abrams taking things that were already done and established in the original trilogy and just like superpowering them a little bit more, right? Like right. The Force lightning is a crazy power and comes out of nowhere in Return of the Jedi, right? Like, we love it. But imagine if that happened in The Mandalorian and Grogu and it wasn't a thing. Somebody just suddenly started shooting lightning out of their hands. There would be so many angry YouTube videos. So many.
Oh my God.
It would break people's brains. But because it happened when, the first generation of Star Wars fans were still kids, and most people watch Star Wars for the first time as a kid, we don't question it. We're like, yeah, of course the Emperor can do that. That's what that's evil. That's what evil would do. So you take the things that already exist, Death Star, Force lightning, things like that, and you crank them up to 11 or 17 or 49 or something, and then all of a sudden, then we're really getting into the stuff where it's like, oh, now we're pushing the lines of credulity with how powerful these beings are, and it then makes Bendu turning into a cloud, or the Mortis gods transforming into these like gargoyle creatures that can fly. Honestly seem a little quaint compared to an army of a fleet of Star Destroyers that can all destroy a planet at will. Like, each individual one could destroy a planet at will. Like, it makes it that's the stuff where honestly, that's where I worry more about them going with the like stuff that's too powerful than the forcey stuff. The forcey stuff, this universe has a real fantastical element with the Force, and we can talk about the mysticism of it, we can talk about the symbolicness of it, but ultimately it is a form of magic. It is a form of magic. It lets you lift rocks, it lets you shoot lightning out of your hands, it lets you do mind tricks. Like, once you've incorporated that, and you've done it, George did it in a really interesting way. But once you've done that, then it is just a matter of finding new and interesting things to do with that. And something like the World Between Worlds that I kind of struggled with initially when it first showed up in Rebels, I've kind of come around to it, because it does feel like, yeah, this is a fantastical galaxy. So why wouldn't there be a place like that, a plane between all the other planes of existence? Star Wars, for as much as I am like, Andor is my favorite thing in recent memory, but it is an anomaly in the sense that it doesn't deal with the fantastical elements. Most things deal with the fantastical elements, and so ultimately Andor has to build to the Death Star. Like, it builds to one of those fantastical elements. It just does it in a way that feels very gritty and real, quote unquote. But ultimately, all of that political intrigue, all of that maneuvering, all of those horrors that we witness on that show are building to big ball in the sky that makes the planet go boom. Right?
It is. We are so accustomed. The general population of the world, pop culture, is so accustomed to the Death Star. They're so it's just so ingrained in our society. And just the whole idea that not only is it this thing, it's just like, no, it's from Star Wars. And Star Wars is literally one of the greatest things ever created in human history. This is, we're putting this thing up on a pedestal. It's so good. But then you take it down and you look at it objectively, you go like, okay, yeah, giant metal ball then in the shape of a moon, and it shoots a laser and destroys planets. That's a little absurd. That's a little wacky. You start to understand that, like, Star Wars is always been a little wacky. And it's just like what you're saying here with like Andor, just like Andor being this dark and gritty and just so realistic show, but then like literally at the end has multiple times shows up the Death Star. It's right there. That big ridiculous thing from the first movie. It's right there. It's in Andor, the very realistic show that's trying to take all this very seriously. It's still connected to those, quite frankly, silly things. But the genius of Star Wars is that it takes silly things and goes, well, what if you took this seriously? What if you took, old wizard guy who can lift things with his mind and has a laser sword, and he has a farm boy and a princess and a smuggler and a giant dog and 2 robots, and like, what if that was actually good and interesting and real, and you actually cared about this, and you don't think twice about how ridiculous it is? That is Star Wars.
Yeah. You can't take out the fantastical elements, even in you can really de-emphasize them, and that does make for really, really interesting stories. Again, I think Andor is one of the best things that Star Wars has ever created. But even Tony Gilroy acknowledged that, like, he did have to incorporate the Force at a certain point. Like, you can't exist in this universe without touching on it a little bit. And as we've said, it is all building to the Death Star. And like, there's that fabulous scene in one of the last episodes where Partagaz and Krennic are talking about the Death Star, and it's like so serious and so dramatic. And it would be, this isn't a planet killing weapon, but this show has just been all about political maneuvering and espionage, and what does it mean to rebel against authoritarianism and fascism, and like all of these like really like granular, honestly like real world considerations, and all of it is building to 2 guys talking about a big giant laser. Like, that's what it all built to. And
it's true,
again,
though.
I love it for that. I love it for that. Yeah, good question. Good question.
Yeah.
Gilster 10.
Excellent.
Excuse me. Let's do a question from Joel Davis. Joel Davis has a question here. Joel says, "Hey Underworld, do you think the Sith will return in a post Rise of Skywalker era or trilogy, like maybe Kinberg's episodes 10 to 12? Personally, I think one day, yes, because A, the term Sith is so iconic that I don't think you can get rid of it forever. It's just that marketable. And B, in universe, nothing is stopping a random Darksider or fallen Jedi from finding some Sith holocrons and just starting to call themselves Darth Edgelord. However, I want to propose a more wild idea. If you're an old school Legends fan, you know that the old Republic era had the, quote, true Sith Empire, unquote. The Sith Empire that hid in the unknown regions while Revan and Malak did their thing during the events of Knights of the Old Republic and retroactively Tales of the Jedi. These Sith were the OG Sith who originated on the planet Korriban and descended from fallen Jedi who became Dark Lords thousands of years ago. What if instead of the true Sith invading in the past, the true Sith invade in the future against Rey? Fun fact, this was originally the pitch for the new Jedi Order series before that idea was scrapped and it became the Yuuzhan Vong. So what do you think? Will the Sith come back one day? And if so, how do you want it to go down? A fallen Jedi who becomes Darth Edgelord, or a true-blooded Sith from another galaxy or the unknown regions returning and saying, hey, we're the real Sith and Palpatine was a big poser? Curious to hear your thoughts on this idea. Love the podcast as always, Joel Davis. All right, Ben, the return of the Sith, the true Sith Empire, out there, forgotten in the unknown regions for generations, millennia even, making their return in the post-Rise of Skywalker galaxy. What do you think?
Nah. I agree with Joel. I agree with Joel that like the whole idea of Jedi versus Sith and the Sith being kind of this buzzword and like, especially since Rise of Skywalker, like coming into a fold of just like the general public. I feel like it used to be like, kind of a niche thing. I feel like it used to be like Mandalorian, where it was like not everyone knew the word Sith. And like, even though technically, it's like that deleted scene of like, I think it's like Mahdi saying like the word Sith in A New Hope. I was like, what? They knew it back then? It's like, yes, of course. Like the Sith word, that word was always a part of the lexicon. Like George was thinking of it in 1976. But like, that whole thing has always been there, and the tantalizing aspect of just like, of course, probably we'll get more Sith stuff in the future. If not through stuff like Acolyte, which is going to be in the past, stuff that's set in the future after the Rise of Skywalker. I think that I thought this after Return of the Jedi that Anakin destroyed the Sith, and that needs to be respected. They messed around with it in Rise of Skywalker and the sequel trilogy. They fixed it. It's all also ends well. It's back. Rey did the thing, and Palpatine's gone. I don't want that to be undone. I don't think that thing's, unless it's like 1,000 years in the future. Unless it's like truly I want like a long period, and even then, I don't want it just to be like, oh, there's just a Sith guy that's out of nowhere that he was always there and he's back now. I don't like that idea. I like the idea that was kind of tiptoed around in the sequel trilogy, but was never actually put into play, which is just the idea of somebody coming along and being fascinated with the Sith. Some new guy turns to the dark side and is like, I'm going to become a new Sith. I'm going to learn about the Sith. I'm going to get this book that I found on Moribund or whatever else. I'm going to learn about the Sith. I'm going to become a true Sith on myself. And you kind of got that with Kylo's story. And then, obviously, Palpatine comes along and kind of throws a wrench in that gears. But you never I don't know, to their credit, to Rise of Skywalker's credit, Palpatine does not actually, he returns for 5 minutes. Rey does stop, the whole lead up to Rise of Skywalker, he's gonna return, he's gonna be back, he's got a clone body, and then he comes back for 5 minutes, and then he shoots lightning at Rey and melts his face again. But I think do it like that, do it in a way that's organic and not doesn't feel like you're cheating again. That the Sith are back. No, just let someone discover this, and it would be, I think it'd be a cool way. I think you're flying too close to the sun there, undermining what is a really big part of Star Wars lore.
Yeah, I agree. I think Exegol is as close to the there's a secret Sith Empire out there that we'll ever get, and I don't think we need to play that card again right now. But I do agree with Joel that the word Sith, that term, that sort of is a key piece of the Star Wars lexicon that has a broader sense of awareness than I think even Lucasfilm was aware of going into the sequels. I think they became aware of it during the sequel era, which is why all of a sudden it was everywhere during Rise of Skywalker. But Force Awakens and Last Jedi each, I think they say Sith once in each of them, and it's kind of throwaway lines each time. And they were really trying to be no, it's a different thing. We're not the Sith. It's something new, because I don't think they appreciated just how much that term has had penetrated the culture. And I will give you an example. I'm sure I've given this example before, but I was reading a book about hockey. I was reading a hockey book. I was reading, for any hockey fans out there, any Leafs fans out there, I was reading Steve Dangle's book. I was reading This Team is Ruining My Life. And in it, Steve, who by his own admission is not a huge Star Wars fan, just casually is referencing is referencing good and evil. And he gives just a couple of classic examples of good and evil, and he goes Jedi or Sith. And again, this is not someone who's like us, who's talking about Star Wars all the time. This is somebody who just sort of casually will watch a new movie if it comes out. And he dropped Sith in there. And so that's a real, that shows to me that this word has gotten out there. And I don't think they appreciated that until they were making Rise of Skywalker, and they realized, oh, we can use this. This is actually, I think they just thought people associated Sith with the prequels, and that they thought, oh, everybody hates the prequels, and therefore we won't say Sith anymore.
That's exactly what they thought.
except in throwaway lines to make the nerds happy, the crazy people who like the prequels, and then by the time Rise of Skywalker come around, they're like, oh right, actually, here is all the Sith we can think of. So yeah, I agree with Joel that word is has a lot of impact in Star Wars, and I do think we'll continue to see it pop up in backstory things, like Acolyte, things that take place in the past. But the immediate future, my suspicion is that it is going to be focused more on some sort of Yuzan Vong style threat that is not the Sith that is extra galactic. So it is kind of that, like, no, there's another enemy out there that you didn't know about. So I do think that something like the Vong is very possible for 10, 11, 12, whether they call it that or not. I don't really care what they call it. But yeah, I do think we'll see another Sith, and something I have said time and again that I think is a story that they will do eventually. And I think they should do is let's go 5,000 years in the future. So 5,000 years in the future. And then, yeah, you can tell a story about someone discovering Sith holocrons, discovering the story of Darth Vader, discovering the story of Darth Maul, discovering the story of Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious, and Darth Tyrannus, and this weird stranger guy who was in one season of a TV show, and then we didn't get to hear from it because people didn't like the show enough, or didn't watch the show enough, or there was too much noise, or the show was too expensive, or whatever it was. We should have seen more of him. All this stuff, and then uses that as inspiration to restart the Sith and create something new that's deep in the future, instead of returning to the idea of, hey, there's a Sith Empire. Because what's the Sith Empire going to look like? 10,000 Star Destroyers in the sky with Death Star cannons on them? We've seen that. We've done that. We gotta come up with something new.
I mean, and that's to me what is so interesting about the Acolyte and that era of Star Wars storytelling, that I hope and pray that they still continue to do something with in some way or form, and just like seeing the Sith not at their full power, not seeing them having to be scrappy and because they get all, of course that's what they want, that's what Palpatine wants, and he gets it, he gets all the power and he gets all the control, but then it's just like, well, just wait for him to screw it up and for everyone to take him over. Like, the idea of Sith in the background and scheming and doing all this stuff, and the Jedi being at full power, but also in their own way screwing it up, and the Sith taking advantage of that. Like, that's interesting.
And using the Jedi against them. And yeah, I'm going to stop punching this movie for this week, but the Stranger and Khmer in Acolyte, and seeing him manipulate May and Osha and Sol and all the Jedi and everything, infinitely more interesting than Palpatine with his Exegol army in Rise of Skywalker. Infinitely more interesting, because that in Rise of Skywalker, it's just here's super duper power evil man, whereas Palpatine in the prequels, Khmer in the Acolyte with Plagueis, like they're having to maneuver, they're having to manipulate, they're creating an interesting story and the mystery that the Jedi characters are trying to unravel, but they can't because they're blinded by their own hubris, and they're unable to stop it until it's too late. I like the Acolyte. I want season 2. I'm sad we won't get it.
Me too.
Good question though, Joel. Appreciate the question. Thoughtful as always. All right, one last question. This one comes from Mando Merc 85. Mando Merc 85 wants to talk a little bit about the Mandalorian and Grogu, specifically that trailer from a couple of weeks ago. Mando Merc says, hey, Underworld, couple of questions about the trailer. Number one, do you think they will give Embo the Cad Bane Book of Boba Fett treatment? God, I hope not. Number two, what do you think that white serpent thing was? It looks like something straight out of D&D. And number three, do you think this movie will kick off a big Star Wars movie craze with the Rey movie and Starfighter just on the horizon? Embo getting the Cad Bane treatment. No.
They kill him, but we riot. I'm telling you, I will be first one in the streets with my pitchfork and my sign if they touch Embo.
No, I don't think they will. I think even in the Empire magazine article, like Filoni acknowledges like the scope on this movie is bigger. And even though Mando and the TV shows had a pretty big scope, they were still somewhat limited in what they could and couldn't do. And I don't think you're going to have Embo be held back in the way that Bane was. The bigger problem with Bane in Book of Boba Fett has nothing to do with the way he was portrayed or even what happened to him. It's just that they tried to build him up as this nemesis to Boba Fett based on backstory that we've never seen. And like, it's only vaguely referenced in the show, not in any meaningful way. And what they're referencing in the show is an unproduced episode of Clone Wars. So you can't even say, well, go watch those episodes of Clone Wars. They don't exist.
Wish I could.
You can see like 4 clips from it in story reel format. Like you can't even watch the full story reels. So they missed the mark by not centering the Cad Bane story in the present more than they did. And Embo does not have that. Embo does not have history with any of these characters that we know about, at least. Embo can just be a new character, a cool new character, even if you haven't seen the Clone Wars. If you've seen the Clone Wars, you're like, sick, it's that guy. If you haven't seen the Clone Wars, he's just a cool new bounty hunter design.
I know that guy. He's a Leonardo DiCaprio pointing in the screen. We're all going to be doing that. But I feel like Embo could potentially be the type of character that Boba Fett was originally intended to be, which is just like cool guy. He has cool weapons and cool gear. He looks cool. We don't know anything about him. He just pops up every once in a while and does a cool thing and vanishes. We never learn about his backstory or nothing, which I think, is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I have no complaints about the development Boba Fett has gotten, but there's also room for characters that are just like paper thin.
Yeah, exactly. The white snake in the trailer.
I know the answer. I know the answer to this one.
Connections in the corner of Ben. Take it away.
I would have saved this for Ben's Connection Corner after sometime in May when we discuss this, but we'll talk about it now. Because I did do the research on this because I was like, okay, what is that actually? What is that thing? It's called a dragon snake. And you have seen them before. You saw one in the Clone Wars, the Hunt for Zero. Obi-Wan almost gets eaten by one. And I believe, even though it doesn't really look like the same thing, I know it's a bit of like a canon, like retcon thing where they're kind of playing with it, but it's supposed to be the same thing that almost eats R2-D2 in the swamp on Dagobah.
What?
That's supposed to be the same species of monster, dragon snake.
Okay.
Somebody
take Pablo's computer away from him. He's getting too.
Or maybe it's a snafu with Wikipedia. Maybe Wikipedia people they like to have fun sometimes, and I love it for them. But it's also just like it also just like I know they didn't have the budget, but also it can be a different creature, guys.
Be its own thing. Yeah, seriously. Oh man, good stuff. Good stuff. And then what was the third one? The third one was will this kick off a new Star Wars movie craze?
I mean, as far as like people being into more Star Wars movies, I hope so. I hope this makes like $5 billion. That'd be nice. Everybody and their mother goes to see Mandalorian and Grogu 5 times, and that would be great. As far as it goes, I think just like putting Star Wars back in the public consciousness more, as I was saying earlier, just like I think a lot of people are only gonna perk up and pay attention when Star Wars is in a theater. So this is gonna get those people on board, and I think people, we'll see them come to the table and be like, oh, Star Wars again. And then hopefully Starfighter, seemingly based on the stuff that we're hearing, is that Starfighter is going to be like maybe the real crowd pleaser. It's going to really get butts in seats. So, and hopefully they will build on that momentum, because people won't get excited about Star Wars movies unless they make Star Wars movies. They have to make them first. And let's hope they keep making them.
Yes, they have to make them, and they have to be good. Is the thing.
That's an also important part. They got to be good. That's an important part of it.
I'm loath to bet against Grogu, but I don't think this movie will kick off a craze in the way that, say, Force Awakens and Rogue One did, because it is a continuation of something else. Like, it's a continuation of the show. For as much as it is a new chapter, it is also a continuation of the show. So you are kind of going into this movie knowing something of what to expect because you've seen the show and you know, okay, this is going to be the show, but on steroids. I think Starfighter has a better chance because it might be something new, and it might be that Ryan Gosling, Flynn Gray, Amy Adams, like one of those characters really hits, or any of the other characters, Daniel Ings, Aaron Pierre, whoever, and suddenly that becomes the thing, and everybody's excited and hyped about that, and that kicks off a new craze, the way that Force Awakens did, and the way that, frankly, The Mandalorian did when it first premiered on Disney Plus. I feel like you can tell when a Star Wars thing has broken through when you start seeing Star Wars pop up in places you don't expect it to. And I think it did that with Force Awakens. I think it did that with Rogue One. Did that to an extent with Last Jedi, and it did it with Mandalorian. It has not done it with most of the other shows. Andor, I think, is an exception. I think it did that with Andor. But like Solo, Rise of Skywalker, Book of Boba, Acolyte, Obi-Wan, love them. Really, really like them. But they didn't break through in the same way. So I think Starfighter is more likely to be that. But hey, I love to be wrong and have this movie be the thing that kicks it off.
And hopefully in the future there will be room for both. Hopefully Lucasfilm and Disney will understand that not everything is going to break the glass ceiling and be this huge thing like Andor, like The Force Awakens, these huge event things that really are cultural phenomenons within the cultural phenomenon that is Star Wars. And I still want them to make your Obi-Wan Kenobis, your acolytes, stuff that's maybe lower 100%. Key. And keep doing that and not expect everything to just be huge. I feel like now we might be going into there. We're going into Maul Shadow Lord, which is going to be, I think, big, going to be great. But it's not going to be the huge event unless it's like the best animated series of all time, which it very well could be. It's still going to reach a ceiling because unfortunately we live in a world that isn't as accepting of animation as it should be. And then we'll have other things. We'll have Ahsoka. We'll have a lot of other different things. And I think Mandalorian and Grogu is going to hit a ceiling in regards to certain amount of people may not take it seriously. Starfighter may be the big thing. It may be more niche, whatever else. But I think most of these are like safe choices. They're with, both of these movies are with like efficient directors with who are known for bringing in, movies that are under budget and on schedule and are made for families and for wider audiences and make money and are successful. Exactly.
They're crowd pleasers. Sean Levy and Jon Favreau make crowd pleasing movies. And I think that's good. I think that's what Star Wars needs right now. But yeah, Maul Shadow Lord, expect it to be as big as Bad Batch and Rebels, which were
big and got bigger have gotten bigger. Yeah.
And have very passionate diehard fan bases. My only other thing I'll say is that I don't think the Rey movie is happening anymore.
I tend to agree with you now. I'm starting to,
it was not the fact that Kathleen Kennedy did not mention it in her exit interview. I think is very telling. And also there was an interview, there was an event recently that Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy was at, and someone asked her a Star Wars question, and she basically said no comment. She didn't say how excited she was to make it. She didn't say we're working hard. She didn't say I can't wait to read the next draft of the script. She said no comment. So that's basically what Benioff and Weiss said before they left. And I think that movie as it was intended and announced at Star Wars Celebration London, is dead. I think Rey will return in the Simon Kinberg trilogy. I think, Daisy Ridley's contract is just being shifted over to that. I hope to be wrong. I hope there is another movie with the sequel characters before that, be it The Hunt for Ben Solo, be it a Rey movie. But I think if the Rey movie happens, it will involve none of the creative team that were working on it back in 2023. Again, would be very happy to be wrong, but I suspect that's where we're at.
It's painfully clear that the scripts that Stephen Knight turned in was not up to par on what Lucas
not what they, or
so,
it's not, or at the very least, it's not what they were looking for. I think,
yeah, which is fair.
Yeah, they could have been good scripts, just not what they were looking for. That's, I think, is
like you don't want, as much as it is frustrating to like learn about a movie, whether it be this Rey movie or The Hunt for Ben Solo, and be like, I really wanted this to happen. You also don't want to end up in a situation where the movie gets made, and then it's like, oh, maybe they should have took another pass or two at this script. Cough, Rise of Skywalker. And and done a little more polishing on it. That also sucks. So the fact that like hopefully they will just keep going on it. I think Daisy Ridley's going to come back regardless.
Oh yeah.
I agree with you. I think Rey is coming back. It's just like when and how.
Daisy's back, Rey is back. Like, that is going to happen. It's a matter of when, not if. I just think that the Rey movie that was planned and announced to us in 2023 is at best gonna experience a massive shakeup before it ever rolls camera. And if it hasn't already, or just been folded into episode 10 or whatever it is that Simon Kinberg is working on. The Hunt for Ben Solo, though, that's still the one. That's always going to be the one that got away, because it does, like, the creative team is insane, from Adam Driver and Scott Burns and Rebecca Blunt and Steven Soderbergh. The fact that like all of those people were on board to make a Star Wars movie. Steven Soderbergh was going to direct a Star Wars movie with a story that he came up with Adam Driver, about Adam Driver's character that he probably knows better than anybody else. And they had, and for some reason that didn't happen. Like, that's the one that got away for forever and ever. I think is the case, unless
I don't know about forever
Josh,
and ever.
tomorrow.
I think I am still maybe deliriously, delusionally positive about that situation, but I'm just waiting for it. I'm just waiting for, like, they're gonna make the announcement. They're gonna say, hey, we're bringing them back. We got things. We got the script. We got the creative team. It's all been worked out. Just gotta green light it and just do it. And they need more movies. They need stuff that everyone is on board with. Kathleen Kennedy, we can assume Dave Filoni also was on board with this thing. Just do it. They need a movie after Starfighter, okay? They may not have something in line for that 2028 portion, that schedule. So, why not? Greenlight the damn thing.
Why not? Just do it. All right. That's an excellent note to end on, I guess. Thank you, Mando-Mark85, for another great question. If you want to submit questions for Ask the SWU, make sure you join the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord. But with that, we are going to wrap things up for this week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will be back next week to talk about whatever goes down in the next 7 days in Star Wars. And if nothing happens, we'll make something up. We'll come up with something else to talk about. And it will be a fun time, too. So we hope to see you back here, same time, same place next week. Ben, thank you, as always, for hosting. Anything you want to plug?
Well, you know what? I will plug game night on the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord. We'll be getting together tomorrow night to talk and game for a little while. Usually we start with Fortnite, but then recently we've actually been getting into some what's the name of the game? I forget. I don't play it enough, so things. Overwatch. I remembered it. Yes. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Star Raptor has been joining us for that. He's big into Overwatch. That's been a lot of fun. So we actually have a big crew. So for some reason you play Overwatch and it's a team-based game. So if you're like, hey, I'd like to join a team of really good people, and then the person that sits in the back and throws grenades, me. Yeah, come join us.
All right, check it out. Star Wars Underworld Network Discord link is in the description. I will also quickly plug again, if you want to read about Star Wars or A Night in the Seven Kingdoms, check out my Substack, Hoth Off the Press. You can find it by going to dominicgjones.substack.com. Also, again, make sure you subscribe to never miss an episode, whether that's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else. And if you like the show and you want to leave a review, we really appreciate that. Helps get the word out about what we're doing. And if you want to go the extra mile and financially support us, you can become a channel member here on YouTube. Follow us on social media. We're at the SWU pretty much everywhere. And check out the other programs on the Star Wars Underworld Network, like the Raeside, Ion Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, and the Tractor Beam. All right, Ben, I think that's it. I think we are out of here. So we will see everybody again in 7 days' time. But for Ben and Chris, who's not here, and Hannah, who's not here, and all the other people who aren't here, my name is Dominic, and may the Force be with you. It's a wrap.